Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the first official episode of Moving the Goalpost, which is exactly what we intend to do with player takes and analysis to provide that slight edge. I'm your host, Danny Mills. With me as always, Nicholas Orr, aka Uncle Morty. And Mort, how we doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. No complaints on my end, and I look forward to getting into things.
Me too. I'm looking forward to getting things going, and we do just want to take a second to thank anybody that this reaches, who gives us an opportunity or gives us a listen. We just want to say that we appreciate you and we thank you very much. Just as far as who we are, we're two friends that met a couple years ago and hit it off with the passion of sports. As for myself, personally, I got into fantasy football about 6 years ago. I've only been doing home leagues until up about 2 years ago, where Nick was actually kind of a mentor to me, introduced me to best ball. Last year, truthfully, I dabbled in it just a little bit. And then this year, as the playoffs came, Super Bowl finished and best ball came very early, I think in January. This is the first year that I started drafting all year round. Nick and I and a few of our friends, we typically drop off just a little bit, as most people do with the end of football season. The group chats kind of slow down. The talks kind of go a little bit further. And we were just sitting and bullshitting one day, and we were talking about fantasy football and our love for it. And he's somebody who started drafting very early on as well with me. And we decided, why not take it a little bit further and put a little bit of content out there. And with that being said, I'll let Nick tell you a little bit about himself, how he got the name Uncle Morty, and just a little bit of the things that we're going to do together this year as we go through some best ball content, season-long content, and definitely some DFS and some weekly content. Nick, you want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Danny said, my name is Nick, but everyone calls me Morty. That nickname goes back 10 plus years ago. It was, to make a very, very long story short, it was a Morton Salt reference. Someone was calling me Salty. I was calling them Salty back. Next thing I know, they were calling me Morton. That evolved to Morty. So anyways, that's why people call me Morty. Like Danny said, I have been super involved and passionate about fantasy football, about fantasy sports, just football in general for a long time. I've been playing home leagues for, I would guess, maybe 20 years. It's been a really long time. Got super into daily fantasy and DraftKings. So last year, we also participated in the Circa Million sports betting contest. We ended up just outside of the top 100. I mean, we were like literally a half game out of cashing. We did come in like second place essentially for a quarter. We were a half game away from winning 150K. We ended up taking home 5K, so we at least won something. But so the point in all that is that we just like football, fantasy football, whether it's betting on it, whether it's daily fantasy, whether it's best ball, we just want to provide content and talk about that as much as possible, and we certainly look forward to doing that.
Absolutely, Martin. With that being said, tonight with a little bit of content, we're going to try to hop into a fast Dalmatian, see what we're able to get into. Mort, you want to touch base on the Dalmatian a little bit?
Yeah, so Dalmatian is a $101 entry, total prize pool of 300K. The way that it is set up, there are 4 rounds, 12-person groups obviously will be in the first round. Round 2 is 8-person groups. Round 3, 8-person groups. And then the final is a 102-person final. So at the end of round 1, the top 4 in each group will advance to round 2. At the end of round 2, the top 3 advance from each group. At the end of round 3, the top 2 advance. And then at the end of round 4, it's tournament style, 102 people, first place payout structure from there. So hopefully that's not too confusing, but the point is, in some of these higher entry buy-ins. The rules are not the same as the like Best Ball Mania, where you have 675,000 million entries. I don't even know how many there are, but there's a ton. And I prefer playing entries like this. Me and Danny already did a Bulldog, which is a $500 buy-in. These Dalmatians, which is a little bit more expensive to buy into. It's just more realistic that you can win, I think. And yeah, so we're going to run through a draft, and it is going to be a fast draft, so we'll have to sort of talk through our thoughts and make our selections quickly.
Fairly quickly.
I'm going to go ahead and enter it now. Hopefully, it's not a super long wait. We are waiting for 11 people currently, so we'll see how fast this fills. I'm also currently doing another Dalmatian.
What do you got?
And let's just go over what I got so far. So in this one in particular, sometimes the way things play out, it's not exactly how you want it to. I took Kelsey eighth here just because a lot of times doesn't fall that far. Um, my next pick was Chubb. I do like taking a running back in the like first, second, like just at least one of them. I like to take a running back. So I feel like most of those guys are just a tier above everybody else. And then I took Hertz in the third, and this is a slow draft, so I have time to think about this as I'm making the pick. And mainly just because he was there, it was the 32nd pick. I think he's the QB1. I'd rather have him than Mahomes. And I just took him because he fell. I knew I didn't have um, AJ Brown or Devonta Smith, but I didn't really care because Hurts is someone where like I'm not as concerned with ability to stack because he does have so much upside running the ball. And if you see here, so Mahomes went 23rd in this draft, and then Allen went 30th. Hurts goes 32nd to me. And once again, it's just like a value thing for me. It's like that's just I wanted to draft him because he was falling. And I did take Swift, so I had a little bit of correlation there. Took Marquise Brown for the correlation. The Eagles do play the Cardinals in Week 17. I have Kelsey and Pacheco. Took Boyd there. Once again, a little game correlation. I really want to have exposure to the Chiefs and Bengals. I'm sure a lot of people will. So you sort of have to do it in a different way, I think. Um, and the rest of the draft, I took Jones, and I don't have any Giants players yet. However, I've talked about this before. Like, I know I can get a lot of his wideouts towards the end. So with my next pick, like, I don't really have to worry about wide receiver until the end. Like, I can sort of try and maybe draft a couple running backs over the next few rounds, draft my tight end two. Typically, if I have Kelsey, I only take two tight ends. I rarely ever, I don't know if I've even drafted a third tight end with Kelsey, like maybe once or twice, but it's certainly not frequent. So I don't love the way this one's going so far, but I think it's okay. I mean, there's some correlation there. There's some um, things that work, and we'll see how it turns out in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was something that we just talked about on episode 1. I mean, you have plenty of room wide open to go back and get a couple stacks with Daniel Jones. Again, I'm going to tell you to make sure that you get Hodgins. I just think that he has the most upside. I think he has the clearest path to possibly even crack top 30, maybe top 25. I mean, he finished very strong last year. Him and Daniel Jones formed a connection. Outside of Waller, he's their next big body receiver, and I just think he's going to be the most consistent this year for them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we don't have anyone that has joined this lobby yet, so I could leave and we could just do a BBM4. What do you think? Well, we got
Uh,
one person that just joined, so we're still waiting,
nope,
and they just left.
they just left us. Uh, yeah, you want to do a best ball? I told you,
Yeah,
I didn't think this would fill. I think a lot of people were,
doing slows.
yeah, they're using these as slow drafts, which,
Yeah,
to be honest, is definitely for the rest of this year and definitely next year in the beginning of best ball season. After the Super Bowl, things of that nature, I will absolutely be taking advantage of those slow drafts.
yeah, for sure. I mean, in the drafts that are larger buy-ins like that, like most people are probably slow drafting because it gives you more time to gather additional information. So if someone fast drafts at the beginning of the Dalmatian, and then someone else enters a slow draft whenever it's 99% full, there can be like a solid month or more in between those. So the people that are drafting towards the end and slow drafting, you just have so much more time to gather more information. Like there could be injuries, there could be new reports out of camp, there could just be all these things that change, which sometimes can go to your advantage, and then other times um, really hurt you in the end. So
Yeah, and I mean, it's an advantage too that I do get to sit and look at my correlation and think of my pick, and it's kind of like it's almost more of like playing chess versus playing checkers. Whereas like when we're in these fast drafts, man, like your pick can come up quick, and if you got two or three people queued that are ready to go for that pick, and if all of them go, that 30 seconds seems like sometimes it can go by the blink of an eye, and a lot of times I'll send you the picture of it like, god damn, Morty, I literally just shot myself in the foot because my cute players went and I didn't think it through quick enough.
right. We got two more spots. If I get the 9 spot, I am just auto drafting and I'm done with it.
I'll just sign off. If you get the ninth spot, we'll just hit stop and
4 spot, oh my god.
there we
So
go.
there's like a running joke between me and Danny because I have drafted, I don't even know at this point, like probably 75-ish teams, with a lot still pending that are slow drafts, but like it literally seems like 90% of the time I'm in the 8, 9, or 10 spot, and the number of times that I have 4% exposure to Justin Jefferson for reference. So like literally 4% of the time I'm drafting from the 1 spot. I have like 6% chase or something. It's just proportionally my drafts have all fallen into that range. So it's sort of annoying. I like to mix it up in things to be a little bit different, but it is what it is. So from a strategy standpoint, for me in Best Ball Mania, where you have so many entries and so many people, I do think stacking is important, even if it just gives you a little bit of an edge. And I think you got to be unique. It's sort of like playing a massive DFS tournament. It's like you can't just um, do what everyone else is doing. You got to have unique combinations. You got to have things that someone else isn't
Ooh,
going to have. So,
good
see,
for
Cup
him.
goes there early. I would be okay with Hill or McCaffrey here, either one.
I
Our next
prefer
pick,
is
we could probably get.
yeah, is that heavy running back range. I would prefer Hill, but that's just because, like we talked about earlier, I'm kind of fading CMC a little bit this year. I think he's going to finish outside the top three.
Yeah, I'm cool with Hill.
And I feel like if you take CMC in the top five, if he finishes outside of the top three, I feel like that's a big first round pick. No, maybe that's stretching it because if he hits 4 or 5, I guess that would kind of be worth it. But I just don't see. I don't think he reaches the capital that he reached last year. Like last year, I absolutely loved him and I smashed home runs with him because everybody passed on him uh, with the first, second, and third pick.
Yeah, it's. I think largely depends on. how big of a role Elijah Mitchell plays. But I mean, they did give up a pretty good amount to get him in San Fran, and I'm sure they'll use him a lot. Hopefully he can stay healthy again. And that was a big thing last year. Everyone's like, "Oh, he can't stay healthy. He can't stay healthy," and any of these guys can. It's blind luck who gets injured and who doesn't sometimes. But who knows? I still like him a lot, but
Well,
either way,
yeah, I just don't think he has. I think he has a strong role. Obviously, I mean he's going to be CMC. I think he gets the goal line touches. Um, for underdog especially, it's half PPR, which means touchdowns are everything. So I still think he's a strong pick. I just the way that you know how receivers go, they go very quick, and I mean we talk about this almost every day. This part of the draft is it's just so hard to give up Saquon, Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Pollard, all of them to go out
hmm
for an Olave and a Higgins.
right, coming up in a couple spots here. So I typically would prefer to take a running back here since we already have Tyreek, and
Hurts
that's
went at
more than
16.
likely. And this guy probably had AJ,
AJ,
yeah.
yeah.
Which stuff like this, like you just, I don't know. I guess you can do it. It's like in theory, if we wanted to get real crazy here, you could take like Andrews at 21 and then Lamar with the next pick, and then you're guaranteed this like nice game stack. But whenever you're giving up that much value with ADP and you're reaching for the stacks, I mean, maybe it will work out in the end, but I would just prefer to not do it. I prefer to let things fall to me and not go too crazy. Like how many people are going to have Hertz and Brown or Hertz and Smith or whatever? It's like you're not really gaining that big of an advantage in my eyes.
Right. No, I mean because it's going to be highly owned. That percentage of Hurts and AJ Brown, whereas I mean some people get a player in between. You and I have a few drafts where we have like Tyreek Hill, Devontae Smith, and then we get Hurts
I'd
in the
probably
third
like to
round.
take Pollard here.
Yeah, you know I bet my life on Pollard this year.
Yeah. I have a very high percentage of Pollard so far, probably too high, but I've been a big Pollard truther even before last year, and I just think he has. I mean, I don't know. I think he could like be CMC, with his pass game work too.
Yeah, Pollard has as long as he's 100% healthy, has a path to.
What do you think with this next pick? I sort of like taking Andrews here because then you automatically have at least a piece from that Baltimore and Miami game, and like we all remember what they did last year. It was a massive, massive shootout. I'm high on Andrews,
I'm high on
and
Andrews.
I think if
Well, you have
you can, well, I mean, Mahomes is still there too, but surprised no one's taking him yet. I feel like he usually goes earlier.
he does.
There we go. So my vote would be for Andrews.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
So what I was saying in these spots, like if I have Hill or Waddle and I can get Andrews, then I already know like I have a nice stack for that game. And then the hope is that maybe Lamar will somehow fall to me. It doesn't happen very often. Well, it doesn't.
I didn't realize we are at 45, but hey, I mean,
Yeah, I
if
mean
he gets
it's.
there, if he
I've
gets
got
there,
I've got him there before. Certainly, it's. And who knows how the way things will play out. Like the thing with best ball mania in particular is like it's not going to be full for months. So Lamar, his ADP could move up to 30. It could move back to 48. Like we really don't know at this point. So
no. Once training camp starts and all these reports start to come out, and then we start to get clips of camp and like what reality and what they look like, I think the ADPs are going to move a fair amount. And I think you're right. I think Lamar could crack top 30 with the other quarterbacks, or it could go the other way. It could drop a little bit towards Burrow. But I think too, what we're setting up is also to your point earlier of why you don't take Andrews early and then come back and take Lamar with just a Tyreek Hill. I know he just went there, but again, we have drafts where I just sent Morty my first one the other day where I think I got him at 43. I know Morty sent me at least two or three that he's gotten him, 44, 45, and then you have that additional player in between, which gives you that uniqueness of having those two players. Whereas, some players or a more casual player may take Lamar and Andrews with just Tyreek Hill, which will be a higher percentage owned in the tournament.
And I don't even mind if you have Tyreek and you don't take Andrews, still take Lamar because, like, you can get a piece of that offense later on too. So there's different ways you can go about it, but I'm just higher on Andrews than probably most people are.
Absolutely. I mean, Andrews could take the crown this year. I mean, Kelsey's getting ready to, what's he'll be 34, 35.
No, he's not that old.
Kelsey's up there.
He's 33. Yeah.
Yeah, so
He's old, but he's still.
he's topping the cliff a little bit. But
Yeah.
it's
He's
hard
good
to
up there. Eventually he will. Eventually he's going to have a dramatic decrease
But I feel
in
like even
production.
as tight end one last year, he still had like a quiet tight end 1 year.
Yeah. What do you want to go here? Any thoughts?
Oh, we don't have any correlation in the moment besides Dobbins down there at 56. I mean, I'm fine with. What do you think? I'm fine with Mike Williams or Christian Kirk. I actually prefer Kenneth Walker or Aaron
I
Jones, though,
mean,
honestly.
what
Oh,
about Christian
Watson.
Watson?
Yeah. I'm good with Christian Watson.
Because we still got a chance to get like Addison and some of those other pieces if we want.
If we could get Addison back there, that'll be a nice week 17 stack.
And I don't think you have to go too overboard with like every single player correlating perfectly in every single game, stacking it. But I usually am trying to get in total at least, you know, let's just say 5 to 10, 11, 12 stacked players between all the games, between all week 17 games. So sometimes it's a little more than others. I don't like to reach like crazy high just for a little bit of correlation, but still it makes sense. Like in that position,
How did? Ooh,
what is it?
I was gonna say, how do you feel about what's coming up?
I wouldn't mind taking Aaron Jones.
Oh, he went Hawkinson. You think Mike Williams falls?
I I wouldn't mind taking him either. I mean,
I mean,
I sort of would rather take Aaron Jones
I
than you
would.
have.
I'm good with Aaron Jones. I would prefer Aaron Jones over Mike Williams. That's two anchor backs. Aaron Jones with Christian Watson is a nice
Yeah,
setup. If we can go either way, truthfully. If we do get Addison, I'm not a big fan of taking Cousins and Love. I actually prefer like a Love Golf or a Cousins Golf since they don't end with each other, but they do play each other. Those three teams, 15, 16, and 17. Um, but if we get Addison, that sets us up for two routes of a late round quarterback.
yeah. And I keep like going back and forth on like Mike Williams and Keenan, and I know Mike before his injury, he was better than after his injury last year, and I always think of him as like that big play guy for them. but they're talking a lot about Quentin Johnson, and still got Eckler. Like, there's just a lot of mouths to feed there. So I don't know. It's just hard. I don't know. At one point, I was like, yeah, definitely like Mike Williams better, and then now I've sort of been getting more Keenan, and honestly, don't know what I like.
I have a heavy percentage of Mike Williams. Um, I've been trying to sprinkle in a little bit more Keenan lately with my best ball drafts, although I really haven't been, best ball mania drafts, but I really haven't been doing too many of those, trying to save my second half more for like July, August, the better time of the year to draft. I would say, though, I like Quentin Johnston and Joshua Palmer. I mean, Keenan, when I get burned in season long by a player, it like deeply sets in my fucking heart sometimes, and it's so hard to let that resentment go. But I'm trying with Keenan, who burned me last year for 12 weeks. Him and Herbert. So for me, I like Quentin Johnston. Hopefully Mike Williams did heal. If he did, hopefully his back is good and he's ready to go, because I do have a decent percentage of him. I think if they're all,
Before,
oh,
real quick, just before it's our pick here, if Dobbins is still there,
take him. I
do we
mean,
take him and hope that Addison maybe falls to us?
who are we okay with if they don't fall? I mean, JK is definitely,
I mean, we still got other routes there.
yeah, and
I
J,
think taking him this deep is solid.
yeah, JK falling to 69 is solid. 13 spots past ADP.
And this is what I mean. Sometimes the plan doesn't always go as is. Like, it would be nice to have Addison there, but taking Dobbins 13, 14 picks passes ADP, and then, we still, that adds to our Baltimore stack. Like, and then who knows, maybe Addison still falls to us, and now we got two things that we want. So, and maybe he doesn't. If he doesn't, that's fine.
No, if he doesn't, I mean, I know Osborne has fallen and continues to fall, but KJ, I think he's going to start on the outside with Justin Jefferson, and he had huge spike weeks last year. So I'm good with Osborne back at, I think he's
Yeah,
around like 159 now,
yeah, they just took Addison. So,
and he took Dotson. Uh, I mean, I like Gabe or Pickens, unless you want to go Brandon Cooks and pair him with Pollard. I'd be okay with that too. And maybe we get,
yeah, we could do that.
yeah, I'm
Because then
perfectly
that
good with that.
opens up Dak as well, maybe. Let's do that.
What's our next pick?
Mm, 93.
Yeah, Tua's starting to move up. His ADP's creeping up.
So we have different routes we can go there, though. Now I think like Tua could make sense. Dak makes sense.
See, I don't know. I don't know if this is my downfall sometimes, but sometimes I'm an asshole, man, and I like to see if my quarterback will fall. And like I said, I think we talked about it in episode 1. Like sometimes with Cousins, I get lucky, and he does. He drops to like 120, 125. Same thing with Golf. Sometimes he'll drop 140. So, what when we come up, we're going to be fairly close to each other, right? It'll be 93 and then 97,
93 and then 100.
100. Yeah. See, I don't think Tua gets to 100.
Hmm.
Maybe.
I also played Dallas in week 16, so
I mean,
The way to think about the Dolphins is I feel like I have, some Tyreek, some Waddle, and Tua, but like no one else hardly on that team. Like the
everybody
running
else.
back position is like hard to decipher, and then they have like Durham Smythe. Like am I gonna draft him? I guess you can, but I don't love it.
I have a little bit of Smythe.
Tua just went at 85, so
No correlation, I bet.
see.
Oh, he's got Waddle. Okay.
Yeah.
Nick gets a lot of Timmy lobbies where people just select quarterbacks at random about 10 spots ahead of ADP.
Yeah, it often makes no sense, but
All right, Morty, what are you thinking as we come up on 93? I was hoping Flowers would get to us, but
um, I don't know. I'm honestly okay with anybody. I mean, there's not really any sort of. We could take Bateman. We could take. I think Bateman's my best available besides Deshaun.
I'd be good with Bateman. Well, that would give us three Ravens, right?
Right?
I'd, I'd say Tyler Boyd, or actually go Bateman. Yeah,
I'll get Bateman. I mean, if we get like Boyd or someone like that, we can get him with the next pick. I wouldn't mind taking Dak next, honestly.
I would take Dak. That'll solidify nice QB1 for us. Man, the year that he broke his leg, that hurt my heart so bad. I was undefeated. I think I was like 7-0 in one of my home leagues.
Yeah, I still think that offense should be pretty good. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to have a big year. Still think Cooks is good. Rookie tight end. Pollard is obviously a massive upgrade from Zeke.
Yeah,
So
a lot of people though are thinking that Jake Ferguson is going to take over the Schultz role.
yeah, it'll probably be a mixture of the two, I guess.
He's actually not a bad late dart throw that I like to throw a tight end too, especially for this super flex league when you're taking three or four of them.
That's Fields and Watson.
He's got a nice little build going.
So you're good with Dak here?
Yep.
If we are going to try to add anything to the to Dallas with Detroit, it's basically
Laporta, Josh
like
Reynolds.
or Porta, someone like that. Our next pick is 117. Probably running back for me at this point. I mean, we'll see what it looks like there, but I think this range I usually get a running back. I do like Damian Harris a lot this year. I think he could score a lot of touchdowns potentially. And James Cook over under on his touchdowns is only like 4.5 or something. I think that's what it's at. So I know Allen runs some in, but I like him. Someone like Gibson or Robinson is fine too. Any thoughts on your end before we get there?
Uh, I would say my favorite of all of them would be Samaje. I don't think he'll get to us at 117, but if he does, I think he'd be really good value. I probably have too much of him now, and then it would be Damian Harris as my second option. I really want to believe in Gibson again, but I fucking hate Ron Rivera, so it's hard to trust in Gibson. But I do have a
I
decent amount of
know.
him too.
I mean, and we talked about this last episode, but Gibson at his ADP as it keeps rising, yeah, like I don't really want to take him at 103. But if he falls to 117 or something, I'd be all right with it.
Now, more when you're going through, do you ever? Because I know right now we have week 16 and week 17 stacks. Is that something that you take into consideration? Is 15, 16, 17?
A little bit. If I'm deciding between two players, I still think it matters, especially in something like this, because it's like you have to be first out of 16 teams in the second and third round, I think.
Holy
So
shit!
that alone in itself is really tough, you know. So it's like you sort of just have to get lucky and hope that you get through there. I mean, Gibson here, it's pretty good value,
I would take Gibson for the value. Absolutely.
but yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Is like you really have to you got to get lucky in something like this. You know, there's just so many entries, and for you to come first out of 16, like back to back weeks, if there is some correlation there, that's nice. I would prefer it, but you sort of want to get into the finals and just hope that things play out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the more interesting part. I think is following it this year and seeing what builds do advance and looking at our advance rate and things of that nature. Because obviously, I've never done anything like that before, so this year will be an interesting piece in that regard.
Who do you want to take here? I really don't. I just don't like Michael Gallup that much. I
I
mean, I know that we could add him to the stack, but I just
I prefer not to, and I would tell you why in a second. But I'm not in on Gallup in any way. I was when that camp news came out that he
we're
looked good.
we're on the clock here. Dobbs,
I'll take Dobbs over Gallup. Absolutely.
yeah. Go ahead with the Gallup thing because I think we're probably on the same page.
Yeah. So when the I was high on him before OTAs and things of that nature because I was like, okay, 2 years removed from the ACL, Gallup was half decent, and then I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were just hammering home how bad Michael Gallup is, even before the injury, like just his ADOT, yards per target, things of that nature, they were just bad. And so with that, it just lowered my expectation of Gallup having this spike week of a year that a lot of people think he's going to work his way into. And I don't see it, man. I personally, I like CD and Cooks a lot more, and I think Pollard gets fed the ball a decent amount this year.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast the other day. I don't remember who was talking about Gallup, but they were talking about his yards per route run even prior to him being injured, and it was bad even before the injury. Like he hasn't had a good season since like 2019 or something, you know. So to me, it's like they throw the ball to Pollard a decent amount. Lamb will soak up a ton of targets. I still think Cooks is probably pretty decent, and he should have a good year with Dak. So Gallup is like the fourth option at best, and I don't know. I just don't really like him. So
I'm happy for Brandon Cooks. I think he's just been one of those floater guys that kind of has bounced around the league, and I think he'll solidify and settle into Dallas's second receiver with CD grabbing some attention, Dak getting him the ball, and hopefully I have a decent amount of him too. So I'm hoping he does climb his way into the top 25 this year.
so thinking ahead, I do ideally want Love as our QB2, I think. I mean, since we already have the stack there. That would be ideal. Um, we have 5 wide receivers. Be nice to have someone from Minnesota. Gonna go ahead and this is as we're talking through this process. Like, if there's people that I'm like, you know what, I wouldn't mind to have this person. I'll sort of star him just to give myself a reminder and put him in the queue. But maybe Laporta potentially to have a stack with Dallas as our tight end too. Just ideas
Are you
thinking
thinking?
forward.
Are you thinking two
Maybe
tight ends or
Reed.
three tight ends?
I mean, we can see how it plays out. Generally, if I have Kelsey or Andrews, I only draft two because just some often they're going to be the score that is posted for that week that it's like, eh. But let's just see where we are here.
Coming up, 141. Love is
uh,
153.
where is
There's KJ at 140. He's up top. If you were looking for a Vikings running
yeah.
back.
I mean, if we want to try to get Love and Osborne, we probably need to take them now. If those are like the next two that you want.
I would be absolutely good with that plan. I would love to take KJ here and hopefully get Love on the comeback.
Okay. Well, let's do that then.
I just like that NFC North stack of week 15 through week 17. I think the Vikings play the Bengals, then Detroit, and then Green Bay.
Yeah. A lot of Vikings games are pretty high scoring too.
And then even Green Bay they have a decent playoff route too with Tampa, Carolina, Minnesota.
Just thinking ahead too, it's like if Love does get picked, which is certainly possible, like people will sometimes just do it for whatever reason, you we still have other options. It's not going to kill you because if, let's just say that game does go off and um, Love has a big game, it's going to be through Watson, Dobbs, Jones. Like, those are the most likely people it's going through anyways. So we're still going to be ahead of whoever takes them. And we are going to get him here, so it's irrelevant. But Watson has, let's just say, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he could outscore Love by himself, or close to it.
Yeah, I mean, I would much rather miss out on the quarterback and have the other pieces than have the quarterback and miss out, depending on who the quarterback is, I should say, and miss out
Yeah,
on their connecting pieces.
yeah. So if we look at the playoff view, we already have two pretty big game stacks here.
I think optimal, they were saying for playoff weeks are like 6 to 9.
Yeah, somewhere in that range. And I think, if we add, um, we could take. Uh,
I don't know if I'd want to add
I think if
Musgrave.
Laporta falls there, then I would like taking him just because that adds another piece of the stack. Like, and the important part in all of this is like it's not always just about stacking. It's we're adding people around their ADP, potentially getting value, but also it is adding to our game stack. It is more likely if that game shoots out that now we have multiple pieces of it.
Right.
So
And this was a
Laporta just went pretty early, so will not be him.
no, I wonder who did he pair him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
good call.
Yeah. Outside of that, I got to say it's been a pretty smooth draft for us. I mean, we got good value. Um, Even with the Osborne and Love, I know we kind of took them a little bit under ADP, but ADP is still in that range. It's not like we're taking KJ Osborne at 120.
Right. And as you get further along in the draft, it's impossible to be ahead of ADP on everybody. So
I
next pick, I would say
Go
we're
ahead, Marty.
probably okay on wide receiver. I would lean, but there's a lot of wide receivers in this range.
What are
Running
we coming
backs are
up?
low.
165 or is that 155? 160.
165.
Um, I'd actually be okay, truthfully, if you want to lock in our second tight end with a Taysom Hill or a Jawan Johnson. I know there's not correlation there, and that's kind of taking the best available. Even though for us, yeah, it's Knox. I just think Johnson or Taysom, one of them, have the higher upside. Unless you want to take a complete dart throw at the back.
I mean, I wouldn't. I
I'm okay
hate
with Raheem.
taking. The Miami backfield is still
So
a toss up.
it is. Before you get to your pick, though, I got to make my pitch for Jeff Wilson because they did give him more guaranteed money. So they re-signed him and Mostert, and they gave Wilson got more money, got more guaranteed money to stay with them. You can take Mostert.
Then
I'll
that yeah
trust you.
that I mean that entire situation to me is
Make your
uh,
pick. Go Mostert. Take it.
okay.
It's a shit show. I mean, that's genuinely what it is, especially with the chain, and if they throw Dalvin in the mix too. I just I'm learning I guess the old rule of thumb is to follow the money in a sense, and it's I think our boys were talking about that in regards to both of those running backs, and Wilson got the more guaranteed money, so he may end up carving a little bit more of a role. I think it'll go Mostert and Wilson as a split with a chain as the third down, but if you throw Dalvin in there, one of them are going to move on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing with drafting this early. Like we're drafting in June, you don't know what's going to happen. You're just guessing and hoping that you're right on a lot of this stuff.
Damn,
I mean, if Reed is still here, we have obviously a lot of Green Bay players, but
how many people have a triple stacked with Aaron Jones, Jordan Love?
I don't know. It's not going to be us though because he just got picked. So I would be good with Juwan Johnson. I do like him a lot this year.
I like Jawan Johnson a lot too.
Unless you, I mean, do you like? I I don't know about Knox. I don't know.
I
I didn't even
prefer.
like him that much before they drafted Kincaid. So who do you like better, Johnson or Taysom?
I like Jawan over Taysom, but I don't mind either.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I do think, I mean, Carr threw the ball a ton to tight ends. Like even whenever Darren Waller got hurt and went out for a while, like there was weeks where he was just peppering Foster Moreau with targets. So I really do think that the tight end role in New Orleans could be good. And who knows what's going to happen? Like I don't know. That's an offense that I actually do like. I think that Olave's obviously he's going to be really good. They have two tight ends that could have some decent weeks. Shaheed, I think, can build off what he did last year. Michael Thomas, who the hell knows? He could
Stay healthy.
not even play a single game this entire year. He's like the most frustrating person to try to figure out. He's like the Anthony Davis with the NFL. He's always hurt, always something going on with him, and who knows? I don't know if he has it anymore even at this point, but
Well,
we'll
he's
see.
he's topping that age too, right? He's getting ready to turn 30,
I
or
think
he
he
is
is
30.
30. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's probably 30.
I know, but he was such a stud, man. If he would just stay, he would. If I don't think he stays healthy. I genuinely don't. I think Shaheed and Olave take that receiver core over, and uh, as you just touched on, I think Carr peppers Johnson.
And that's another stack, like I think you can think about as you're drafting. If you don't have, if you're not pairing guys up, if it's just sort of like completely not correlated, like you can take Carr late, you can get Shaheed late, one of these tight ends late, even if you don't have Olave or Thomas or whatever. It's like that's someone that I have a pretty good amount of, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I have a decent amount of Carr. I'm working on some best ball mania shares of Shaheed. I in the puppy and the super flex. I've been taking a lot of that New Orleans or that late Tampa Bay stack. I'm starting to actually take a little bit more of the Carolina stack. I'm not a big fan of rookie quarterbacks. It's hard for me to draft them. I know the upside. I understand it, but like Anthony Richardson at 99, I have zero shares of. Um,
Yeah, only I've only been taking him if he falls significantly past his ADP. I have a little bit of him, but it's tough. I feel like he's someone that he is so athletic and just tested off the charts with everything. Even if he's a terrible passer, maybe he will have a good year. But I don't, I'm not very convinced of that. I could just be wrong.
yeah, I mean,
Any thoughts here on this next pick? We're up.
what position are we thinking?
I mean, either one is fine. We could do whatever you want, honestly.
Um, you could take Luke or Jake
Yeah,
or
we could do
Pierre.
that.
Who's best? Oh shit, Marty, we're getting ready. I was gonna say we're getting ready to order draft.
Add another tight into the mix. I
I
don't
forgot.
hate it.
I forgot we had Andrews.
No, that's all right though. I mean, I don't always only draft two tight ends there. I think we're pretty strong overall. Like
Sometimes I
I
don't.
like our team.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't mind that with the elite tight ends.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
I have some teams if I'm just adding to a stack or something, there's no one else there that I really like. I don't mind just throwing a dart at it and see what happens. And who knows? Who knows? I mean, Andrews gets hurt, and then somehow that ends up saving us. You just never know how things are going to play out. So next pick, definitely not tight end. Probably good on quarterbacks.
2583, 2673.
I don't hate drafting a. I feel like all the running backs at this range, like Fournette and Hunt, or like whatever, we could take
I
Pierre
was
Strong. I know you like him. I wouldn't mind taking Dwayne McBride even. I feel like he's not drafted very often, and almost always see
Tyson Chandler.
Tyson Chandler getting picked. And like that situation's unclear. Like I don't, who knows who's going to be behind Madison.
Who knows if Madison can
It's
handle the
our
workload?
pick. I didn't realize it was our pick, but I took Pierre Strong.
It's all right.
So,
We'll get better
and
at that.
I like Strong anyways. So we can finish this off with another wide receiver. Maybe throw someone in there so we have a Detroit player. You think that would be
You,
ideal? Maybe.
if if we're gonna take a Detroit player, you know who I'm gonna make my greatest pitch for? Josh
Uh,
Jacobs.
Yeah, so I'm cool with that. Where is he? You want Khalif Raymond?
I don't see Josh. Nah, no Khalif Raymond for me. There he is, right up top. You just went by him.
Yeah. I think it's like iffy between these two. Like Marvin Jones is, how old is he now?
Marvin Jones, he's got to be up there too.
It's like 45.
Right.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing whenever you get to this stage in the draft too is like a lot of times I do either add to an existing game stack or just take like a dart throw on someone that I don't think anyone's going to really have. It does make more sense if you're thinking about it from, like how big of a game is Marvin Jones really going to have? How big of a game is Terrace Marshall going to really have? The entire wide receiving core could be injured, and I feel like their upside is still pretty limited. It's not like if uh, Amon Ra and everyone's out that all of a sudden Marvin Jones is just going to put up like 150 and 3 touchdowns. But some of these running backs that are direct backups, if they get put into a game and they're getting 20 carries and some targets, like they're going to have big weeks no matter what. So I think it does make more sense at the end to probably try and draft some running backs and tight ends, but I certainly don't always do that. There's situations like this. Like we only have 6 wide receivers. We definitely need to draft another one probably. And
I don't see. I don't know. I think six. I was gonna say I think six wide receivers actually did fairly decent with the advance rate last year, and I think that was because of what you just said, that these late round running back dart throws were uh, they were decent last year. So all of
mhm.
these backs or people that took 6, 7, 8 backs uh, did did kind of well with these back end picks. I personally prefer the dart throw to be to be a wide receiver, but that's just because it's when I look at it, like when St. Brown went out last year, like Josh Reynolds did have decent. I think he had one decent week, maybe two decent weeks where he had 2 touchdowns in a game, and then the following week he had another touchdown. So if he gets the volume and something happens and they go out, I just think it's a little bit more rare with the wide receivers than it is running backs to hit for those spike weeks.
Yeah. Well, and we'll
We're
take
on.
Josh
Yeah.
Reynolds here.
Okay. Perfect. I was going to say we're
I
on.
think the difference is just like in the talent level, right? Like you have these guys that are wide receivers. Like if they just aren't good, their upside is capped. But you have people that come in that are second, third string running backs, and just because they get so much volume, like they have games where they crush it. It happens all the time.
Right.
Like you have Mixon go out, Samaje Perine comes in last year, like basically does the exact same thing that he did. It just seems to happen more frequently.
whoever the starting running back is for the San Francisco 49ers, guaranteed to put up 15.
Yeah, or who I can't think of it now, but whenever Eckler went out, it was Josh Kelly or
Josh
not
Kelly.
Josh Kelly. I don't remember. Someone stepped in for him, and had like a massive, massive week.
There were two of them.
Whoever is, yeah,
I forget who the other one was too. It started off as Josh Kelly, and then there was one more. I don't think he's with them still because it's not Spiller.
I don't know. All right, so that concludes our draft here. So if we could sort of take a look at the team, we have a lot of correlation here. A lot. Almost every single player we have is correlated in some way.
When
Which,
correlation goes too far.
yeah, which I don't think it goes too far. I think it
I,
sometimes just plays out that way. Like I said before, I don't think we're like reaching for people or doing anything that is egregious. Like we're not picking people 30 spots ahead of ADP just so we can five stack the Packers. It's like if it falls to us and it's there and the value is good and it makes sense, then why not? I don't really know what too much is. Could be too much, but at the same time, what if we
No,
get to the finals and these are the games that there's a lot of points? Like I guarantee the over under of these three games in week 17 are some of the highest of the week for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. No,
So
I would say
who
for
knows?
me, I mean that's honestly what I hope teams look like for the reason that you just said. If those are the teams that go off, especially through the playoff weeks, they're going to give you the best opportunity to win. I think for us, this draft couldn't have gone smoother. I mean, we had a lot fall to us the right way. ADP fell to us just the right way for the stacks that we were going for. Outside of the rushed Jake Ferguson pick for the third tight end, which even that I don't think was a horrible pick. Too much correlation would have been for me personally would have been if we would have taken Jaden Reed. You know, if we have Watson, Dubs, Reed, and
Right.
KJ, we're
I think
probably
it's situational with the offense too. It's like if I had, just as an example, let's say Josh Allen, James Cook, Diggs, Kincaid, and Shakir or Gabe Davis, something like that. Like if I have five Bills players, I honestly wouldn't care. You know, I have five Chiefs players, honestly wouldn't care. The thought is this offense is extremely good, and throughout the course of the year, there's going to be different players that have these massive weeks, and that's what's going to matter. And I want to invest in that. But do I want to invest in like five or six Packers players? Like, probably not. You know, some of these teams that may not have the best offense, I don't want to five stack the Panthers, you know, but a couple pieces or even with our Green Bay stack, it's like we have Love, obviously. So the hope is that Love is good and that offense does perform well. More than likely, the majority of the points that are scored are going to be through Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, Christian Watson, Dobbs. Like we have the major pieces of the offense. So who knows? We'll see how things play out.
yeah, absolutely.
Anything else to add before we jump out of here?
No, I think that'll wrap it up for episode 2. Um, we thank you guys for coming along and joining us for this Best Ball Mania draft. We do hope to get a Dalmatian on stream, whether it's a fast draft or I think we're 1,000% going to start a slow draft and just kind of go through pick by pick like we just did on this one. Um, Mort, you want to touch on anything and take it out?
No, I think that's it. Hopefully, walking through our thought process throughout the course of the draft was helpful. And like you said, next time, hopefully, we'll be drafting a Dalmatian. We can get one of those to fill a little bit more quickly. And yeah, that's it.
All right, everybody, have a good night. Thanks for listening.